It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there.
Good evening, everybody. You're watching America First. My name is Nicholas J. Fuentes. We have a great show for you tonight. Very excited to be back here with you tonight on Monday. We have a lot to talk about tonight, lots to get into. Big show. Our featured story tonight, we got a big story for you. I'm sure you've all heard. I'm sure you've seen the clip. I think it's safe to say that the Groypers can finally declare total and complete victory. It is inevitable because MAGA has spoken. We are 2-3 weeks into a MAGA civil war about what can be said, to whom, who we can talk to, whether we can interview people. And this all started when Tucker Carlson interviewed me at the end of last month. And there's been so much back and forth between the Israel First, Make Israel Great Again movement on one side, led by Mark Levin, Laura Loomer, Ben Shapiro, Seth Dillon, Joel Berry, Josh Hammer, among others, Ted Cruz. And then on the other side is America First. The original America First, the original pro-Trump crew, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Marjorie Greene, Dave Smith, Ian, me, all the Israel-critical people on the right that support the original mission of Trump, which is to put America first. This is how the table was set for the past few weeks. A lot of back and forth, a lot of heated invective polemics against each other. But last night, MAGA spoke in one voice. And yesterday, President Trump himself finally weighed in on the Civil War, and he said, Tucker can interview whoever he likes. He says, get the word out. Let people decide for themselves. That's a wrap. Sorry, pro-Israel. Sorry, Zionists. Sorry, Israel First. That's a wrap. MAGA has spoken. And the message is loud and clear. Our right as Americans to speak freely, our right to freedom of expression, our right for voluntary association with one another has prevailed over your overriding interest in one country and its geopolitical ambitions in the Middle East. Yes, you lost. And it goes without saying, it should be obvious that this is where the vast majority of Americans are, on the right and the left now. There is now a complete synthesis and a heavy overlap between the right and the left, and it's this: we have a Constitution. We have a First Amendment. We have independence. We have sovereignty. And as Americans, we have the right, guaranteed by the Constitution, but given to us by God, to talk to each other. Americans can talk to each other. And the Americans are getting together, and they're doing a lot of talking to each other about our relationship with Israel. And as Americans are getting together and freely discussing this without fear of reprisal, without fear of intimidation, revenge, Americans are making their decision. And the decision is this: we want out. We want out of our entangling, compromising, unconditional, abusive relationship with the state of Israel and with the American Jewish oligarchs that seem to be manipulating our system to keep this gravy train going in perpetuity. Americans have gotten together. They have discussed it. They have spoken. They have made their decisions. And there is now broad support on the right and the left. The young people, for the most part, but also the older people, we're done. And what you've seen over the past 3 weeks is the dying gasp dying gasp of that bipartisan, pro-Israel, Judeo-Christian consensus that dominated American politics for generations, largely due to media monopoly, political influence purchased by billionaire money. The dying gasp, it's now over, and they can fight, and they can scream and yell, and Mark Levin can cry about it, and they can hold their little conferences at the World Jewish Congress, at the Republican Jewish Coalition, North American Jewish Federation. These are all real groups, by the way, that have met over the past 2.5 weeks. And they've all gone there, right and left, and cried about it. Mark Levin and Rahm Emanuel, Randy Fine and Barry Weiss. They've all gone there to talk about this. And what you see is an organized ethnic lobby that is increasingly isolated, increasingly alienated. And what you would like to see from that group is engagement. Surely they recognized, I think they're acutely aware that they're losing, and they're losing their grasp on the people, their grip. And when they're faced with a situation like that, what you'd be looking for is engagement. You'd think that they would be listening. You think they would be listening. You think there would be maybe an ounce of humility, maybe some self-reflection, how it got to this point, and maybe what role they played in their own downfall. But instead, all we get is viciousness. Viciousness, paranoia, blame, histrionics, and always doubling down. Anger, hatred, always doubling down. Us against them. But it's not going to go, I think, the way they think. But we'll talk about that. We're going to get into all that. Thank you, Mr. President. Finally, some good news. I told you last week, this administration has been a disaster. It's been rough, man. I think I literally said it this way last week. I said it's like every day you wake up and it's new BS. The war with Ukraine is still going on. 600,000 Chinese students, more H-1Bs, 300,000 deportations in the year, no jobs report for October because we lost 50,000 jobs. It's every day, every week, it's more disappointment. It's been a rough first year. But finally, some good news. Thank you, Mr. President. If he has not been good on many issues, this was pretty good on this one. This is the one that counted. Did you trust the plan? Plan trusters, how are we feeling? You know, I think today I'm going to trust the plan. I don't know. I just have a feeling everything's going to be okay. If there's one issue he's been solid on, it's that he didn't throw Tucker under the bus. So good for him. Somebody said on Twitter, I'll just say this before we move on with the show. You know what's really funny? Somebody posted on Twitter yesterday, they said Nick realized last year that Trump rewards the people that attack him and punishes the people that are loyal to him. J.D. Vance, who was a never-Trumper, called Trump a Nazi. He's the vice president. Marco Rubio, who viciously attacked Trump in the primary a decade ago. Now he's the Secretary of State. Chris LaCivita, who abandoned Trump on January 6th. He's the campaign manager. And all the loyalists like Ann Coulter, Jeff Sessions, Steve Bannon, they're on the outs. So somebody said Nick realized that, light bulb, started to attack the president viciously for a year. Lo and behold, guess what happens? Trump defends me. He didn't really defend me, but Trump refuses to disavow me. So look, don't hate the player, hate the game. I just realized how to play. That's called the little 5-dimensional chess. I wonder how I could get Trump to not disavow me. I know I'll attack him because I guess that's what it takes, right? If you support Trump, if you vote for Trump, if you're pro-Trump your whole life, Trump pulls the rug out from under you. I don't need your vote. You know, Jeff Sessions, he makes fun of his accent. I hate Ann Coulter. But if you attack him for years, like J.D. Vance, like LaCivita, like all these other people, well, now you're in the administration. Now you're the best friend. I said, hey, well, I'll just do what they do. I think I'll just take a page out of their playbook. Maybe I'll be the vice president. You know, maybe if I just attack Trump every day for 3 years like Vance did, who knows? Maybe I'll be next in line. Maybe I'll be the next successor. So that's what we call playing the game. It's a little game sense for you. It's called pattern recognition. Get used to it. It's called pattern recognition. Ever heard of it? I noticed something. I was noticing. Anyway, so we'll get into all that. We're also going to talk tonight about the Epstein files. It looks like Trump has finally caved, and today on True Social, President Trump posted that he's finally willing to release the Epstein files. Although, it seems that this capitulation has come only because it was going to happen anyway. So we talked about it last week. The vote is scheduled for this week, and it seems that there might be 100 Republicans, and all Democrats in the House are going to vote to release the files. So it's going to pass overwhelmingly. This is a bill that will compel the DOJ to release the Epstein files. And so, really, only after Trump utterly failed to prevent this bill from coming to the floor by adjourning Congress early over the summer, by calling in Lauren Boebert into the White House last week and demanding that she drop her support for the bill. It's only after he utterly failed to stop the disclosure of the files, which is imminent. It could happen tomorrow. Now he finally says, all right, okay, we can release them. Okay, well, it was going to happen tomorrow anyway. It was going to happen by Wednesday, whether he supported it, didn't support it. He tried to stop it. It didn't work. It was going to come out anyway. Now he says, oh, all right, release the files. Okay, really? But I suppose there is some credit that is due. And what I will say about this is I really don't believe that Trump did anything criminal on the island. And I said this last week. If you watch my show last week or in July, or I've covered this for months, I really am skeptical that Trump did anything criminal in the files. However, and this is the big asterisk, because Trump lied, because he did lie to cover it up, and he lied about every aspect of it. He lied and said he didn't know if his name was in the files. He lied and said that he did not ask the FBI to look for his name in the files. He lied and said there are no files. So he lied about it. He tried to cover it up. He tried to prevent its release. He tried to trick people into thinking that he released it with the binder photo op. I said, based on that pattern of behavior, we have to draw a negative inference, which is a legal term. You necessarily have to draw a negative inference, which is to say that if he is hell-bent on covering up the files, then you have to assume that whatever is in that must be pretty bad. Now, who knows what that could be? If it's embarrassing or if it's legally actionable, it's hard to say. We don't know because there's no transparency. But if he seems so desperate to the point of it's really costing him a lot of support, you would say then however much support he's losing by covering it up, it must be worth it compared to how much support he might lose if it came out. You draw a negative inference. So if he's now finally getting behind the push to release the files, maybe we can conclude that it will just be extremely embarrassing, but I guess we'll have to wait and see what's in it for ourselves. So we'll cover all that. It's going to be a good show. Before we get into it, I want to remind you to smash the follow button on Rumble, smash the like button, leave a comment, let me know what you think about the show. Remember to check out our store, Fuentes.store. We have our America First hats. That's like I told you last week. We honestly, it's sort of unfortunate because you would want to say red pill versus blue pill, but in this case, it's reversed. Take the blue pill. Fuentes.store. This hat, I'm sorry to say, it's too little too late. You had your chance. MAGA, I'm sorry to say, is over. Too little, too late. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. We're finished with that. From this day forward, it's only going to be America First. Fuentes.store, get the hat. Also get the shirt. The shirt is Wang Half. That stands for white ass nigga going hard as fuck, because that's what we are. That's what we all are. They treat us like niggas. They try to throw us out. You know, Mark Levin, to us, we're just niggas to him, you know. We're just some YNs out here in the streets. But we're also white and we're going hard. We don't care. Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, we don't care. Wang Halves are running wild. Wang Halves are going crazy. They're putting chalk. Nick Fuentes is right about Israel at Stanford. They're at Heritage. They're in the White House. The white ass niggas going hard as fuck are running wild. The Wang Halves are all over. And you can't control them. They're going hard. You can't stop. You cannot silence them. Fuentes.store. Check that out. Also, big major announcement, and there's going to be a lot more on this in the coming months, and especially in 2026. This is a brand new announcement that you're going to want to get excited for. People are always asking me, what can we do? Is it too late? How can we put America first in the real world? And I've always told people the answer is simple. Become elite human capital, infiltrate politics. I'm doing my part. I'm getting the word out. Like Trump told me to. I'm getting the word out. I'm telling everybody what's up. But we're going to take a little bit further next year. We have a show. This show, America First with Nicholas J. Fuentes, and it's bigger than ever. We have more viewers. Last week, every one of my shows got 1 million views. I think that's the first time ever, perhaps. So the show is bigger than ever. Here's the problem. This movement is bigger than just me and my personality. That's always the accusation, is it's a cult of personality, and my faults are sort of baked into the show and the rest of it. So I decided this year that in order to take all of this to the next level, we have to start to build an institution. It can't just be about me and my personality and me carrying the show. We need an actual institution. And so to that end, we are bringing back the America First Foundation. It's a 501c4 nonprofit. We're relaunching it in 2026 with a number of new projects. In particular, it's going to be a lot of educational content, short form and long form. We're talking feature length, documentary type videos, short form, animated videos. We're going to be creating a number of resources for the midterm elections. I told people in the last cycle, don't vote for Republicans. Why? Because they put America last. And you can see that happening now. But a fair criticism people say is, so what are we supposed to do? Vote for the Democrats? Or they say, what about the good Republicans like Thomas Massie or Marjorie Greene? Well, to that end, we want to guide people and help them understand who to vote for. So we're going to be looking at every candidate that's running in 2026, and we're going to evaluate them and help people make their decision. We're also going to be analyzing some of the networks behind the scenes. We talk about the Israel First lobby, the Make Israel Great Again movement, and sometimes it's too complex for the show. Too many names, too many connections to keep track of. That's a lot of names people are not familiar with. So we're going to help to create some resources to potentially map out those networks, a true resource so people can get a visual representation, a better idea of these patronage networks, these media markets that are influencing us and how we think about the issues. And so those are going to be the major projects, but it's going to have all the intellectual firepower, the production quality of all the other big names of the conservative movement, but for the purpose of putting America first in the most explicit, the most truthful, the most raw way possible. So we're going to be relaunching that next year. There's going to be a lot of information coming out in the coming months. You'll see some previews Really a lot of exciting things. And if you go to the website, it's americafirstfoundation.org. If you're interested in becoming a donor, major donors, you can get in touch with us there because we're going to be looking to raise some money to bring on some personnel, get the best equipment, things like that, and to really put this stuff together. It's all going to be legit. Like I said, it's a real political nonprofit. And like I said, we're going to be engaging in some real projects in the coming year, especially for the midterms and in a real way for 2028, in a huge way. So check that out. That's for more information if you're interested in becoming a donor, because I know a lot of people have questions about that. They say, should I just super chat? How do I get in touch? There's a contact form on that website, americafirstfoundation.org. So it's going to be very exciting. This needs to be, as I've been telling you for many years, a political movement. And I've waited my entire life. I've tried to help other people do it, and it hasn't materialized. So we have to do it ourselves. So I'm rolling my sleeves up. We're going to build it from the ground up, the America First Foundation. This is going to be the premier institution for putting America first. Very exciting stuff. So check that out as well. And with that, we're going to dive into the show. We're going to jump into it, and we're going to get into the news. And obviously, the big story of the past weekend, which caught me totally by surprise, is President Trump's comments on my interview with Tucker Carlson. And I have to say, it was very surreal. I've been following President Trump for over 10 years now, I think. Maybe just over 10 years. And I've been a fan, and I've been a critic, and I've been a skeptic. I've been on the campaign, and I've been a voter, but of course last year I was campaigning against and didn't vote. So for Trump to finally weigh in a direct way, it was a little bit surreal, and we'll get into his comments. Of course, for the past couple of weeks, there has been this huge, intense, brutal civil war inside the GOP about the interview. And I think it's basically undeniable at this point. It is a true civil war. And it's a civil war very clearly about one issue. People can say whatever they like about it. Some people are not my biggest fan, and people can say it's about clips from my show, it's about evil, it's about Hitler, it's about the Nazis, it's about whatever. People can say whatever they like. But we all know, everybody knows, on the right and the left, the young and the old, everybody knows this MAGA civil war, it's literally about one issue and one issue only, and that is U.S. support for Israel. That's it. Period. End of story. That is what has been driving this from the very beginning. And it is based on a fundamental contradiction that once you understand what this is, it's not hard to see why this civil war, not only its nature, but why it was inevitable. The contradiction at the center of all of this is that Donald Trump ran in 2016 on a very simple message. 2 words: America first. That is what he said throughout the campaign in 2015 and 2016. He said, America first. And in particular, how was that ideology expressed? In the most concrete way, America first was relevant in Trump's critique of the war in Iraq. Trump said that invading Iraq under false pretenses, the accusation that Saddam Hussein had amassed weapons of mass destruction, he said this conflict was ruinous for the United States. This was an America-last war. All kinds of money and energy and attention and investment went behind this when it could have went somewhere else. It could have went into rebuilding our own country, our own infrastructure, our own institutions. Instead, it went overseas. And so this is the kind of grievance. This is the message. This is both the abstract and concrete message that actually rallied the Republican base around Donald Trump against 16 other primary candidates in the very beginning in 2015. It's because Trump, contra Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz and everybody else, he was one of the only people to say that all these foreign wars in the Middle East, as well as the trade policy, the immigration policy, all of these policies put Americans last, and they put special interests in America, but also international special interests ahead of the United States. That was the thrust of MAGA. That was the appeal. That's why people liked Trump. That's what made Trump so popular and different from every other politician. Why was the Republican base more loyal to Trump? Why did they turn out in record numbers? Why did Obama voters in the Rust Belt flip to the Republican Party? It was because of that message. And that's what got people excited. That's what got people to turn out. Well, here we are 10 years later. And what did we do over the summer? It looks like we're literally doing the Iraq war all over again. Trump is elected in the context of Israel's war in Gaza, which the United States has supported. We have furnished Israel with over $30 billion in military aid since that war broke out. We have fought the Houthis in Yemen. We have bombed the Shiites in Iraq and Syria. We gave them missiles and bombs and all kinds of weapons to fight not just Hamas, but also Iran. And we threatened to engage Iran on their behalf. Trump is elected, and immediately the first thing that happens is that Benjamin Netanyahu visits the White House, and with the pro-Israel appointees in Trump's own government, like Mike Waltz, for example, at the National Security Council, they begin to lobby the Trump administration to go to war in Iran. And not for any reason, but specifically they say, we have to go to war with Iran because they have weapons of mass destruction. And we saw that for the first 6 months of this presidency, there was an intense tug of war. And it split the administration right down the middle. Allegedly, you had Trump, Don Jr., Steve Witkoff, and J.D. Vance on one side. They wanted to engage Iran in diplomacy and make a nuclear deal. And on the other side, you had John Ratcliffe at CIA, Mike Waltz at the National Security Council. You had Kurilla at Central Command in the DOW. You had elements inside the Department of War behind Pete Hegseth that wanted this war in Iran. And for 6 months, there was scandals over signal and back and forth, and there was pretty overt political lobbying in the media. Netanyahu trying to sabotage diplomacy, Trump trying to undercut and embarrass Netanyahu. And finally, in June, when Israel started their war with Iran, they eventually compelled the United States to enter the conflict on their side and bomb Iran's nuclear complex at Fordo. This, in a nutshell, is what this whole thing is about. This is what the Civil War is about. And this is why it was inevitable, because of this contradiction. We are 10 years into the MAGA movement. And the spark that started the MAGA movement, realistically, was the frustration, the resentment, the bitterness, and anger that it seemed that no matter who we voted for, no matter what we did, we could never leave the Middle East. Whether you voted for Bush or Obama, it didn't matter. We were still in Iraq. We were entering Syria. We might be getting involved against Iran. And so Trump was elected to put America first and end the WMD regime change war. And yet, after all the fighting, all the scandals, J6, all the controversy, everything we've been through, in the end, we're about to start another war of exactly the same variety? What was it all for? Was it worth it? Why did we do any of this? What was even the point of the whole Trump revolution if we find ourselves in Iraq 2.0? If we're now starting yet another war against an even bigger country for exactly the same false pretense, which is the WMD myth. Iran is 2 weeks away from the bomb. Oh, what, just like Saddam Hussein was? And so what do we have to do? We have to go in and bomb them until we have to do regime change? So, contrary to what everybody else is saying, this is not about the woke right, whatever that even means. This is not about anti-Semitism. It's not about Hitler and the Nazis. It's not even about me. It's not about the things I've said on my show over the past 10 years, which you might like or not like, you might agree with, you might disagree with, you might like me or hate me. It's about this contradiction. And whatever you think about me or them, whatever you think about Tucker and Marjorie and Trump and the rest of them, this is the central question. Is the movement going to be motivated and inspired by America First, or is it going to be motivated and inspired by globalism and Israel first? Do we have sovereignty and independence? Is that what this movement is about, or is it about some vague conservatism? Low taxes, foreign wars, free trade. If you can't afford a house, go live somewhere else. If you don't like the war with Iran, get lost. That's the question. And so this has been going on for the past 2 weeks, obviously. And it's very clear that they're using the same tactics they always have. Mark Levin, Randy Fine, Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, all the usual suspects. They're literally at the Republican Jewish Coalition. Ronald Lauder, the Jewish billionaire, is at the World Jewish Congress. This weekend, Rahm Emanuel, Barry Weiss are at the they're at the North American Jewish Federation. At each of these 3 meetings, the message is the same, and it's coming from the same crowd. It's coming from organized Jewry, which I don't think is anti-Semitic to say because that's what it is. The Republican Jewish Coalition, which is a coalition of pro-Israel Jewish Republicans. The World Jewish Congress, where you have many powerful private sector, public sector Jews in governments and business from around the world that get together and discuss what is in the best interest of the Jewish community globally. The North American Jewish Federation, it's an organization for all the different groups of Jewish people in this continent. What else would you call that? At these 3 separate gatherings over the past several weeks, organized Jewry, like I said, attended by people from all different walks of life, Barry Weiss, Ronald Lauder, Rahm Emanuel, Randy Fine, Mark Levin, they're all there. Jewish News Syndicate is present. The message is very clear from them. They are saying that the answer to the opposition to the war in Iran, the answer to the opposition to the war in Gaza, the answer to the skepticism about U.S. foreign aid to Israel or support for Israel, the answer to all of this, they say, is cancel culture and censorship. And that's not me saying that. That's them saying that. Ronald Lauder at World Jewish Congress said, we have to use our influence in the government to pass anti-Semitism laws. They want to make criticizing Jews in Israel illegal. Could you imagine? Could you imagine if this were applied to any other group? Like, for example, if they made it illegal to criticize black people, or illegal to criticize Muslims, or Saudi Arabia, or if they made it illegal to criticize white people or the Nazis or something. Yes, Ronald Lauder, the billionaire heir to the Estee Lauder fortune, chair of the World Jewish Congress, said, in response to all this discussion, we need to make it illegal to be anti-Semitic, which according to them is to say that Jewish people are loyal to Israel. They say that's anti-Semitic. That's now illegal. Mark Levin at the Republican Jewish Coalition, he went out and said, we're going to write down everybody's name and we're going to see who associates with who. He said, and if you don't disavow Tucker, if you don't disavow Marjorie Greene, if you platform these people, we will not support you in 2026. We will come after you. Dasha Nekrasova at Red Scare, she got dropped from her talent agency for having me on her show. It seems like they're already doing it. So this is, make no mistake about it, this is the subject of the conflict. This is what the Civil War is all about. And there is something, by the way, that goes beyond Israeli policy. When you consider that this is the action and reaction, this is the revolution and counter-revolution, it's very clear that the sides in the conflict are not, strictly speaking, the Israeli government and some Americans. It goes beyond that. Is Rahm Emanuel part of the Israeli government? No. And yet he was there at the North American Jewish Federation saying that Israel is the greatest country in the world and America's number 2. Is Randy Fine part of the Israeli government? No. Is Mark Levin? No. Barry Weiss, Larry Ellison, Ronald Lauder? No, none of these people are part of the Israeli government. Not all of them are neocons. Not all of them are Republicans. Not all of them even support Netanyahu. What they all have in common is they are American Jews that are principally concerned, first and foremost, with the interest and the well-being and the welfare of their own community, of global Jewry and their standing in the world among all the nations, and that happens to include Israel as one of their major bases of operations, let's say. That's really the divide. That's really what's happening here. You have a coalition of people inside the United States of America, right and left, that for different reasons are saying, we're giving Israel too much money. We're going to war for Israel. Our system is being influenced by money through the Adelsons, through AIPAC, through Larry Ellison. Americans are getting together and saying, this is not good for Americans. Americans of all stripes on the right and the left, Christians and Muslims, Christians and atheists, whites and non-whites, men and women, Republicans and Democrats, young people and a lot of older people, even some actually Jews, even some Jews like Dave Smith, among others, among other well-known ones. Americans are coming together and they're saying, this is not good for America. This is not good for Americans. This doesn't benefit our country. And then on the other side, at these meetings that are held, at these conferences, organizations, at the RJC, at the World Jewish Congress, at North American Jewish Federation, these powerful American Jewish people are getting together and saying, what is best for us? What is best for the Jews? What is best for Israel? What is best for all of us? And to put it simply, that's not America first. And a lot of Jewish people like to say, for example, I've seen Brett Weinstein. Brett Weinstein says that as America first, we want to exclude Jews. I would say simply, Jews are excluding themselves. When a Jewish person says, I see myself as a Jew first, not an American, when a Jewish person goes out to an organization of Jewish people and speaks as we the Jews and not we the Americans, am I excluding them from America first, or are they excluding themselves? Are they seeing themselves out of the door? When I say we, I'm talking about we the Americans. When I say what is best for America, I'm talking about what is best for all Americans. Because I identify with America. I identify as part of that tribe. America is my tribe. Americans are my tribe. Citizens of America are the people that I see myself as having something in common with. Whereas at these conferences and organizations, that is not the case. Shapiro and Barry Weiss and Mark Levin and the rest of them, they go out there and say, we the Jews. What is best for us as the Jews? The actions we will have to take. What must be done as the Jews for Israel, for the Jewish community in the United States, for the global Jewish community. And that's not patriotic. That's not American, actually. And by the way, they can't then be mad when other groups do the same thing. How can we expect immigrants, Muslims, blacks, whites, how can we expect any group to put America ahead of their tribe if you won't do the same? How is that reasonable? How is it reasonable to say that when every other group comes to America, you have to leave your racial, tribal, religious, cultural identity at the doorstep, but not the Jews? The Jews can be we the Jews, and we love Israel first and foremost and America second, but then they're going to call me a white supremacist or a white nationalist. They're going to call Zohran Mamdani an Islamist in favor of Sharia law. They're going to call all the non-whites third worldists and the rest of it. How does that work? I saw Ezra Klein brought on some Jewish leftist from New York to talk about me, and they both said the same thing. They said this identity politics is so poisonous. Really? So Ezra Klein will have on Yoram Hazony, and we'll have on this Jewish leftist, and they're going to talk about what is best for pro-Israel inside the right wing and anti-Semitism. And then they're going to say it's wrong when anybody else engages in identity politics, particularly white people. That doesn't work. That's not American. That's not America first, obviously. They're not America first. They are Israel first. And everybody knows that. And anyway, so this has been the civil war for the past 2 weeks. And of course, the pro-Israel side is clearly losing. Everywhere you look, on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube, they are getting ratioed. They are not popular. They don't bring the views. They don't bring the likes. All their comments are negative. And the opposite is also true of the Israel critical side. Tucker Carlson has the biggest show in the country. Candace Owens, I think, is right there next to him. Then you have people like myself. I'm bigger than ever before. Despite being censored and suppressed and canceled and radioactive, the Americans are speaking out loudly and clearly. But the pro-Israel side has a little trick up their sleeve, and this is very intentional, and I told you about this last year. They are hiding behind Donald Trump. To put it very simply, that's the only card they have to play. As they're browbeating Marjorie Greene and Candace and Tucker and me and the rest of them, the only card that they have to play, because they've tried to play every other card. They've tried to say, you're not really conservative or you're not right wing or whatever. The only card they have left to play is to literally cling to Donald Trump's leg and hide behind him in the MAGA movement. And so when the first disavowal came at the Republican Jewish coalition, Randy Fine, this disgusting, evil human being, the congressman from Florida, he goes up to give his speech, and he has a group of his followers stand in front of the stage holding up signs that say, Tucker is not MAGA. That was the angle. They're using Trump, drafting behind him, using him as a Trojan horse to deflect all criticism. They have bribed Trump. They have infiltrated Trump. Miriam Adelson gave him $100 million. These people are all over his administration. Look at J.D. Vance's chief of staff. The guy's a Tikva fellow, Jacob Reeses. He's like a proud liberal Jewish guy who eventually came over. So the Jewish people are hiding behind Trump, and they're saying, well, if anybody criticizes us, then you're really criticizing Trump. And if you're criticizing Trump, then you're not MAGA. That's their move. That's why Shapiro has glommed onto Trump. That's why Mark Levin has. They were both never Trumpers. In 2016, Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro were never Trumpers. That's back when Trump was America First. But over 10 years, now that they have slowly infiltrated, and now that Trump is bombing Iran and giving Israel aid, and now that he's best buddies with Netanyahu, they meet 4 times this year. Now they're inside and they're saying anybody that's against us is not MAGA. Anybody that's against us, including Tucker, including Marjorie Greene, well, they're out of step with the spirit of the movement. And that was the last card they had to play. Everybody was already against them. Everybody already said, we're sick of the gaslighting, the lying. We're sick of Judeo-Christian kissing the wall. We're sick of the foreign aid bombing your enemies for you. We're sick of the Orwellian censorship surrounding the issue. The only card they had left, and it's a game they're playing, is to tell everybody, well, if you're not with Levin and Randy Fine and war with Iran, then you're not MAGA. And yesterday, Donald Trump took away that last card. Finally, the president was asked directly, what do you think about Tucker Carlson's interview with Nick Fuentes? And Trump gave his answer. He said, I like Tucker. He said, and that's Tucker's job, is to talk to people. You can't tell Tucker he can't interview people. He said, let people decide. Get the word out and let people make up their minds for themselves. And with that, the game is over. Because that's all you have to do. As long as people like myself and Tucker and Marjorie and all of them, as long as people like us can simply get the word out without censorship, without cancel culture, without blacklisting, without suppression, without getting murdered, as long as we are free to get the word out, to speak our minds freely, and as long as the audience is free to make up their own minds, as long as they are free to receive the information on social media, as long as they are free to make a decision as Americans in their conscience, then it's game over for the pro-Israel crowd. Because when you get rid of all these games, when you get rid of the censorship game, ban this guy from Twitter, demonetize him, ban him from PayPal, the blacklisting, the radioactivity, you can't defend Tucker and Tucker can't interview him. Vance has to fire Buckley because Tucker is Buckley's dad and Tucker talked to Nick and Nick said this 10 years ago. As long as you get rid of these games, which are really mind control games. That's all that is. Controlling the flow of information, controlling who is approved, who is credentialed, accredited to give opinions or form people's opinions. Without all that stuff, there is no argument, and that's why none of them will debate. If there was one single legitimate argument that we should support Israel, then Ben Shapiro would have debated me a long time ago. And he would have proven to everybody why I'm wrong and he's right, and why everything I've done was just me having some sort of pathology. If they had one single argument, Mark Levin would debate Tucker Carlson at America Fest. Tucker is the biggest show in America. Mark Levin, I think, is the biggest show for people over the age of 85. But that's just it. The reason that we have supported Israel and fought these wars and given them all this money, the reason that nobody investigates this conspicuous amount of influence from this one ethnic group, it's not because there isn't legitimate information. It's not because it's false. It's because it is true. And they have used their power through institutions like the ADL, like AIPAC, like the World Jewish Congress, like all these different groups that make up a constellation, which we would call organized Jewry. They have used this influence to shut down the conversation. Anybody that starts that conversation is isolated and destroyed to create a chilling effect. Across the board, they prevent anybody who says these things from having a platform. And if they have a platform, from making money because they take away your bank account. Or if you make money, from talking to anybody legitimate by going after those that associate with the people that open up that conversation. And the moment that somebody says, and in particular President Trump says, let the Americans decide, then the whole thing is over. And this is a story. This is from the Washington Post. We'll read through the comments in particular. It says, quote, President Donald Trump defended Tucker Carlson on Sunday for interviewing white nationalist Nick Fuentes nearly 3 weeks after the former Fox News host triggered backlash within the conservative movement for giving the far-right activist a platform. Speaking to reporters on Sunday night, Trump seemed to shrug off questions about whether Carlson should have invited Fuentes on the podcast. He said, quote, we've had some great interviews with Tucker Carlson, but you can't tell him who to interview. I mean, if he wants to interview Nick Fuentes, I don't know much about him, but if he wants to do it, get the word out, let him. You know, people have to decide. Ultimately, people have to decide. Meeting people, talking to people, like for somebody like Tucker, that's what they do. People are controversial. Some are, some aren't. MAGA has spoken. And unfortunately for Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, Randy Fine, you have lost. You lose. And we win. Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, Randy Fine, Laura Loomer, you are not MAGA. You are not American. You are not America First. And as long as you don't identify first and foremost, as long as your only allegiance is not to the United States, then you will never, ever be American. You will never be able to call yourself America First. You thought you could hide behind Trump with your tricks, your bribery, your money, your influence peddling games. You thought you could hide behind Trump. You thought that anybody attacking you, all of this would be deflected because you're right there at the O-Hell in Brooklyn. You're there throwing your little piece of paper on the Rebbe's grave. You lose. And you lose because Trump, maybe on some fundamental level, in this last moment, has chosen his own base of supporters over you people. And I don't know what he'll say about it tomorrow, and I don't know what he'll say about it next week. And who knows, maybe he'll flip-flop. He has a tendency to do these things. But all he had to say to break the spell was as simple as this: people have a right to decide. That's really what it comes down to. On some level, it is a question of whether the American people still have the right, still have, better said, the sovereignty to make decisions for our own country. Does America have the right to make a decision not to support Israel? Is that an outcome that is even possible? Is that an outcome that will be tolerated or permitted? Can Americans make the decision not to support Israel, or is that unacceptable? Have our Jewish oligarchs like Larry Ellison and Miriam Adelson and the rest of them, have our Jewish oligarchs at the World Jewish Congress and at the Republican Jewish Coalition, have they decided that no, America cannot stop supporting Israel? Americans cannot make that decision. That's why they have to be manipulated. That's why they have to be lied to. That's why they can't listen to certain opinions without pushback, without somebody arguing or interrupting them all the time. That's the fundamental question. Do Americans have the right to speak to each other about our support for this country? Do we have the right to make the decision to stop? And MAGA has spoken. The answer is yes, we do. And with that, Trump has effectively said, let the best man win. Trump has effectively recused himself, and he's abandoned the pro-Israel lobby. He is saying, you have to fight it out amongst yourselves. Get the word out and let people decide. If the people like Tucker and the people like Nick, he says, then so be it. And if they don't, then I'll go the other way. Trump, in typical Trump fashion, has recused himself, and he now wants us to fight it out. So I think the MAGA civil war will go on. They will continue to try to fight Tucker and Marjorie Greene. They will continue to try to cancel me. And we will continue to get the truth out. We will continue to spread the message. But the piece that has been taken off of the board, the card that has been removed, is the Trump card. The pro-Israel lobby now has to win the argument. They have to now win the battle without any kind of support from the president, without being able to draft behind him and his brand. And I think that without that, they really have nothing, and it's only a matter of time. Just wait for 2026 and 2028. And now here is the kicker. Here's the punchline for all of it. So Trump has declined to disassociate from Tucker, and it only makes sense. Why is that? It's because Tucker is more popular than Trump. Tucker's favorability among Republicans is 62%. So Tucker is massively popular inside the right wing. Trump doesn't want to alienate him. And if Tucker saw it fit to have me on the show, and if it was a popular show, I'm sure Trump doesn't want to alienate Tucker. But now this has put every other Republican politician in a similar situation, which is they will have to make a decision whether to disavow Tucker and to stand firmly with the pro-Israel lobby, or if they want to maybe move closer to Tucker Carlson to earn the support from his base. This is where real politics begins. And this is the message for 2026. This is so important. We have to take a look, just like the Israel lobby is. And in 2026, we need to be keeping a list of names. And by we, I mean America First. Any politician that has disavowed Tucker Carlson, we have to get the word out. Don't vote for them. Vote for their primary candidate or their primary opponent. And if they win their primary, don't vote for them in the general. That has to be the message. This is the only way to hold their feet to the fire. This is the only way to make it work. This is what I said in 2021, in 22, and 24. We have to use our vote in the affirmative and in the negative. We need to create the list. If you're with Tucker, you have our vote. If you disavow Tucker, you don't. If you cannot take a stand for America First, then you have no business being an elected official in the American government. That is the message. In 2026, in the midterms, we are showing up, and the Groypers are showing up with us. If you disavow Tucker, you will not get the votes. If you disavow the Israel lobby like Thomas Massey, we will show up for you. And by we, I don't just mean the Groypers. I mean everybody that is America First. Ian Carroll and Anna Kasparian and Tucker and all of them. If you're America First, we will help you. If you are America Last, we will punish you. And the GOP has a decision to make. If they are willing to go America First, then maybe they can keep their majority. Or they can hold off the worst losses in the face of the Democrats. But if the Republican Party doubles down on America Last, then they will be finished in America. And we have to be willing to let them go extinct. Have to be willing to play hardball. We can no longer make the compromise that we will let you put America last in order to defeat the Democrats. No, America First is a precondition. And we will single you out. If you're America Last, we will make you lose. If you're America First, we will help you win. And we are outcome independent. If Republicans keep the House, then God bless. If they lose it, so be it. We're not going to tolerate an America Last GOP anymore. 2016 was about this. In some way, this entire fight for the past 10 years has been about this. We are not going to allow the GOP to slide back into serving the global special interests, the Israel lobby, international banks, Wall Street, and Silicon Valley. That's the call to action. So Trump said, let them fight. I say, bring it on now. What do you got now, Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro? You just got the rug pulled out from under you. There goes your sugar daddy, Shapiro and Mark Levin. You have nobody else to hide behind. No more tricks, no more cancellation, no more censorship. It's just you and me, pal. You and me, Shapiro and me, Levin and me, and Tucker and the others. And now I think they're going to be a lot less confident. Mark Levin says, who's platforming Marjorie Taylor Greene? What, are you going to cancel all of them? Good luck. Mark Levin says, we're taking names. We're going to make our decisions in 26. So are we, fat boy. So are we, fat man. We are doing the same exact thing. Let's see who they listen to. Let's see who the politicians really listen to. Will they listen to the voters when we have activists showing up in their district? Will they listen to the Joe Kent effect, or will they listen to you? That's the fight. That's the battle. So we're gearing up for 2026. You want to get involved? Get ready. You want to get involved? This is going to be a nationwide campaign. We are taking names. And if you are disavowing Tucker, you're getting people in your district. They're coming to your events. They're coming to your district. We are going to hurt you politically in your reelection campaign. It has to be this way. And we're calling on everybody to do it from coast to coast. Wherever you are, this is going to be the mission. So people say, how can I get involved? How can we support America First? This is politics. People say, we're not going to vote our way out of it. You're right. We have to make them feel our presence. Politically speaking, we have to be very careful. It's a very chaotic timeline, but 2026, I'll see you there. Ben Shapiro, you bring your people. Let's see how that goes. Shapiro, Levin. Hey, Mark Levin, why don't you put out the call on, what are you at, talk radio? Let's see how many of the nursing home members from the villages you can get to turn out nationwide, and let's see how many people I can get to turn out. Mark Levin and Shapiro huddling in their fortress in Surfside or whatever in South Florida. Let's see how many people you can bring out to the districts. Let's see how many people I can bring out there. And we'll see where the GOP's loyalty lies. That's the question. So that's that. But we're going to move on. We're going to get into the Epstein files, and then we're going to wrap it up. We'll do super chats. So, and look, I saw some people saying this. They said, you said MAGA is dead. Then you said, thank you, Mr. President. I have to say, this is the best day in Trump's second term yet, I think. Trump taking a stand on this issue may be the most important thing he has done so far this year. He bombed Iran. He tried to cover up the Epstein files. He gave Israel $12 billion in aid. He has not deported nearly enough people. He did not schedule F 50,000 federal employees. But if all that he did is deflate the Israel lobby, if all that he did is decline to cancel Tucker Carlson, that might just be enough to create an opening. So I've said it before, I'm not a Trump hater. When Trump does something bad, I criticize. When Trump does something good, I praise. And this is maybe the best thing Trump has done all year. So if he keeps it up, man, this is the kind of Trump that we wanted to see from the beginning. Where was this Trump the whole year? Trump says, fine, release the Epstein files. Oh, let Tucker talk to whoever he wants. Where was this Trump from the beginning? I wish we had this Trump when Bibi bombed Iran. So I like to see it. Very solid move, Mr. President. I knew you had it in you. I always knew deep down you still had it in you. We love this guy, but he's just been disappointing us. Please, let us support you again, but you have to do the right thing. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. President. I knew you had it in you the whole time. All right, but we're going to move on. We're going to get into the Epstein files here.
Man, it's almost becoming unbearable. Well, it is unbearable. Like fatigue, it's going above and beyond fatigue. It's going above and beyond fatigue. Like, I do not understand. I do not understand why pro-Israel folk, Zionists, think that Americans have to see things the same way that they see things, or we're anti-Semitic. And hear me out on this. Just because somebody doesn't like you, does that mean that somebody's anti-Semitic? Like, if I don't like a certain group of people, so what? So what? Are we not allowed to like certain groups of people? And what's so strange about what's happening in front of us, it's like you're trying to force us to like you so much, to look at you in a favorable way, even though we can clearly see what's going on, let's say with the current genocide against Palestine. And you're trying to force us to like you so much. So I guess you think in our minds we'll justify everything that Israel is doing? We'll get up on stage like Floyd Mayweather or Officer Tatum and just say, hey, I'm rocking with Israel no matter what. I'm always for it. No matter what? Damn. So they no matter what they do, you're supporting them. I don't feel that way about anybody except like my parents and my brother and Maya and a few others, Fran and a few others. I don't want to start naming people because y'all get what I'm saying. My immediate family, like I just support you no matter what. Like we're talking about a country. We're talking about a country that's responsible right now for a genocide, a country that has been responsible in getting us involved in a whole bunch of conflicts where hundreds of thousands of children and women have been killed. And you support this country. Let's get into what Nick was talking about. So the first thing that came up, and I'll play the video, is that they tried to press Trump about disavowing Tucker. And this, like Nick pointed out, this was a big win. This is a huge win when it comes to America First, whether you want to call it the Groypers. This is a big win for America overall, in my opinion, because Trump is finally standing on what he apparently stood on this entire time, which is what we put our, I don't want to say, put our trust, put our vote, put our support in him for. He was supposed to be the one that ends censorship. He was supposed to be the one that goes against the establishment and prioritizes America first and foremost. He was supposed to be the guy. And this entire presidency, it seems like he's everything but the guy. He's not the guy. He's the little case T and G, the guy. He's the guy that gets bullied. He's the guy that continues to get finessed. He's the guy that continues to allow America to be taken advantage of and to be used for Israel's interest, agenda, the clean break memo, creating the greater Israel, whatever their plan is, he's being used in order to see it through. And of course, that brings up the fact that this could involve American soldiers eventually now sacrificing our lives for this greater Israel project or whatever it is that they're going to get us involved in as our little brother, right? The little brother that tends to, it's like the movie Twins. It's like Danny DeVito. I don't know who was older, Danny DeVito or Arnold Schwarzenegger, but Danny DeVito was the one, the brains behind the organization, the little guy, but he was the one controlling and doing everything, like feeling like he now has some juice because he had Arnold Schwarzenegger behind him. That's how, and I just thought about that off the top of my head, but that's what it really seems like. That's what it seems like. So let me play this Trump clip and let's acknowledge this win that Donald Trump just brought to people who have an American first mindset or people who are just tired of American interest and politics being controlled and influenced the way that it is by these pro-Israel Zionist agendas. Let's take a look.
What, Tucker Carlson, what role do you think Tucker Carlson should play in the Republican Party and the conservative movement going forward?
Well, I found him to be good. I mean, he said good things about me over the years. I think he's good. We've had some good interviews, but you can't tell him who to interview. I mean, if he wants to interview Nick Fuentes, I don't know much about him, but if he wants to do it, get the word out. Let him, people have to decide. Ultimately, people have to decide.
Get the word out. People have to decide. Stop trying to control the way that we think, the way that we process things. Stop trying to control how we have to see something, and then if we don't have the proper reaction that aligns with your agenda, that we're anti-Semitic. It doesn't work like that. If anything, it's creating anti-Semitism. Now, I don't think that overall it's gotten to that point with America and how we're feeling, but what people are feeling is pissed off that you continue to try to bully us into thinking and seeing things your way. We already had the indoctrination. We grew up with the indoctrination. We grew up looking at oh, mom and dad got on the news. Who are the people that are throwing rocks? These little kids, dirty clothes, messed up clothes. They're throwing rocks, hiding behind rubble. And then you got the other people with the guns, the machine guns. They're shooting them. Oh, the people with the machine guns, those are the good guys. Those are the godly people. Those are God's chosen people. The people with the rocks, those are just the maniacs, the terrorists, the beasts that can't be tamed. We grew up with this and now we're offended by it because not only did we grow up with it and look at y'all from a favorable perspective, but damn, now that we just won't continue to just align with any and everything pro-Israel, pro-Zionist, Now y'all have an issue. Y'all are trying to ram it down our throats. We're not accepting it. We don't like the product. We probably haven't liked the product for a while, but we just didn't push back against it. But damn, now it's to the point where it's like y'all are forcing us to push back against it. Let me show you an example of because Nick mentioned, let me go kind of my fault. Let me not get off the notes. Let me try to stay on point a little bit. But Nick mentioned, who's the guy? Ronald Lauder. He mentioned Ronald Lauder when he was talking about he's the head of something, and Ronald Lauder, he and I ChatGPT'd him a little bit. Let me actually go to ChatGPT because I had a bunch of things pulled up when it came to Ronald Lauder. All right, so Ronald Lauder. So this is what he recently said. At the annual gala of World Jewish Congress, he declared that to combat anti-Semitism, the only real solutions are education and public relations efforts, stressing the entire education system, K through 12, to college, must be retaught. Let me say that again. He was stressing that the entire education system, K through 12 to college, must be retaught. He said laws must be passed that expressly forbid teaching racism, anti-Semitism, and anti-Western civilization narratives. Bro, we are Western civilization. If we don't feel like Western civilization is being criticized, why are you trying to force us to lump that in the category of people just not being okay with what Israel's doing? Now it's an attack on Western civilization because people are disagreeing with what Bibi Netanyahu and Israel is doing. That's an attack on Western civilization. They try to use that term, the whole Judeo-Christian, to show some form of camaraderie between us and Israel. And it's like you're trying to force it. It's like that friend that you have that's like they're doing too much. Like, bro, we already let you, like, you know, we let you come around and stuff. We don't like really rock with you like that, but you do too much at times. And but now it's to the point where you're going above and beyond, bro. You're doing too much. That's what's happening with Israel. Let me show you this clip of, and I'm saying that to hopefully address the issue. I'm saying that to address the issue. Let me finish off with what else he emphasized. He emphasized the need for stronger PR by Jewish diaspora organizations and Israel, if it chooses, to tell the truth about anti-Semitism in Israel. Are we going to tell the truth? Are we going to tell the truth about how Israel was created? Are we going to tell the truth about what is actually, who are the Semites? Are we going to tell the truth about all of these things? He warned that today's anti-Semitic attacks are not just attacks on Jews, but an assault on Judeo-Christian values, which are the bedrock of Western civilization. Says who? Like what? Like says who? What Judeo-Christian? That's like saying hot, cold values. Like they're the opposite. They don't align. They contradict each other. The Old Testament contradicts the New Testament. Just my opinion. The Old Testament contradicts what Jesus stands for, being Christ-like. Just my opinion. But they always try to lump it in Judeo-Christian values. So, you know, us, we silly, dumb Americans, we don't understand anything outside of America anyway, and they rely on a lot of our ignorance because when it comes to geography in America, we're not brought up in a way where we care about anything happening outside of America. Period. That's how we look at it. He raised concern about how anti-Semitism is spreading through distorted education and technology. For example, the WJC under his leadership, so he's the leader of the World Jewish Congress. The WJC under his leadership is working with social media platforms and UNESCO to address Holocaust denial, misinformation, automated hate speech, and the role of generative AI in spreading anti-Jewish hatred. Yo, who like, so you guys own history? So what? Somebody wants to spread Holocaust denial. So what? The fact that you're fighting it so hard is making people actually look at it like people who weren't even thinking about like entertaining the Holocaust and entertaining the people who are denying it. Now you're giving it credibility by going so hard against it. This is what's happening. You guys are shining a light somewhere where you clearly, it seems like, don't want that light shine there. Or you want us to shine the light and lie about what we're seeing. That's what seems to be happening from my perspective. Maybe I'm wrong. All right, let's move on. I wanted to show you this video. So this is Danny Bannon, Israel's permanent representative ambassador to the United Nations. So this is just an example. This is just an example. Take a look at this. Take a look at this.
What they have. They don't recognize Israel. They promote hate. Look at the drawings of children from all around the world. Nothing about Israel. Nothing about our hostages. Look what they have. They don't recognize Israel. They promote hate in those drawings. That is shameful. This is part of the hypocrisy of the United Nations. I demand that the UN will remove this exhibit immediately and will stop with the hypocrisy against it. Look at the drawings of children from all around the world. Nothing about Israel. Nothing about our hostages.
Nothing about Israel, nothing about our hostages. So what? Why do you think people are obligated? This is what happens when you have a special relationship with somebody and treat them like they are the chosen people and treat them like they're better than everybody else. You develop this sense of entitlement where you think that you can go into wherever he is and criticize school projects from kids because they feel sympathy towards Palestinians. And a lot of this stuff, I mean, he pointed to the one that says free Palestine, but take a look at some of these other ones. It says peace. I don't see anything against Israel to this. I guess saying free Palestine is anti-Semitic now.
Look what they have. They don't recognize Israel.
So it says from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Oh, so I guess that's racist because they want the land back that they occupied. I don't know if that's racist or a cause for people to destroy kids' art projects. I don't know.
They promote hate in those drawings. That is shameful.
Peace comes from within. Peace begins with love. I'm trying to see some of the other.
Israel, they promote hate in those
peace with a smile.
drawings.
Peace begins with a smile. Like what?
That is shameful. This is part of the hypocrisy of the United Nations. I demand.
This is part of the hypocrisy of the United Nations. I don't know what type of stranglehold Israel either has or believe that they have on America, but I don't know what your goal is, but this is going to create a lot of, it's going to leave a bad taste in a lot of Americans' mouths. It really is gonna. That's why it's like, just stop. Just stop. Maybe take a second instead of trying to convince people that you're right, instead of trying to convince everybody that everybody else is wrong. It doesn't matter as long as we believe in ourselves. Maybe take a step back, humble yourself, put your ego to the side and look at this from the outside in and say, well, why are we feeling like a lot of people are against us? Could it be perhaps what we're doing in the region? Could it be that maybe this isn't a godly thing that we're doing, that maybe we should hold up and reevaluate things? Because what's the alternative? What do we think is going to end up happening? Do you think that this is going to make Americans just say, you know what? You're right. You're right. We're wrong. And whatever you guys want, we're going to support y'all. Whatever you want to do, we'll be your big brother. No, it's changing. And we have you talk about the right to exist. Do we have the right to not agree with Israel? Do we have the right to exist without being forced to support everything that Israel does? Do we have that right? So let's get to some of these notes. It says, well, Nick also pointed out that people that talked about Trump, it seems like they got rewarded. Rubio, Vance, Chris LaCivita. I'm not really too familiar with him, but Nick said that that's the campaign manager. Meanwhile, you got the Ann Coulters, the Steve Bannons, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes. They're all on the outs. The people that passionately supported Donald Trump. The ones that he said after they called for the Epstein files to be released, Donald Trump saying, you're not MAGA, he's criticizing people. We are tired of getting involved in the conflicts that have been created based on our relationship with Israel, whether it was the Houthis in Yemen, Hezbollah in Syria, and other groups. We are just tired of it. And when people reference organized Jewry, is that anti-Semitic? Is that anti-Semitic? Did I look that up? Yeah, it says the phrase organized Jewry is mainly used in political or ideological discussions, and it's important to understand it clearly and accurately because it is often misused. All right, so let's get to it. Straightforward, neutral explanation. Organized Jewry refers to the formal institutional Jewish organizations that represent Jewish communities, such as advocacy groups, religious councils, cultural institutions, educational organizations, and philanthropic networks. Okay, we get it. So is criticizing them anti-Semitic? Should it be against the law for people to criticize Israel? Who should? Oh, well, you can criticize, but only to a certain extent. Like who? Like this is America, bro. This is America. This is America. We have free speech for these reasons. So people can't be silent. So we can't have what happened in 2020 happen to where Biden and Kamala Harris are trying to censor, not trying, are forcing Mark Zuckerberg. Well, not forcing, because Mark Zuckerberg, he didn't have to do it. He decided to do it. But he exposed them that they were forcing, that they were pressuring him to censor certain posts. A lot of these posts coming from experts in the field. But because they didn't align with Fauci, because they didn't align with Big Pharma, because they didn't align with what the government was pushing at that time, it became an issue. And Nick mentioned something that I want to highlight. He said that they're using Trump as a Trojan horse to feed their message and have Trump shield them from the criticism. I do believe that. I do believe that. Make sure y'all go back and watch Troy. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. But I do believe that this is occurring. They're trying to use, whether it's Mark Levin or Randy Fine jumping on stage, or Mark Levin yelling and screaming on his TV, Tucker's not MAGA. Or them with the goofy signs at the Jewish Republican Coalition, Tucker's not MAGA. But then Donald Trump, what does he do? He goes on TV and actually supports Tucker. While all y'all goofs are running around trying to, I don't know who you're trying to influence. You think you're going to influence people that are fans of Tucker to follow you and to align with you now, or realign with you instead of with Tucker? Like, who do you think you're convincing? And perhaps there need to be some outside voices in the room, because clearly y'all are not reading the room correctly, not reading the temperature of what is going on in America right now and how Americans are feeling about Israel. We're not going to tolerate an America Last GOP anymore. I believe that's what it comes down to. And Nick referenced this, the host of the Red Scare, Dasha Rekonasova. Hold on, let me see. So did she, hold on. Let me double check. I want to make sure. Dasha, let's look it up. What did Nick say? She got fired? Did she recently get fired for hosting Nick Fuentes? I forget what Nick was saying. My fault. Let me make sure that I don't want to feed y'all any bad information. Let's just double check. Let's just double check. Yes, it has been widely reported that Dasha Nekrasova was dropped by her talent agency. Oh, she was dropped by her talent agency, the Gersh agency, after a controversial episode of her podcast, Red Scare, featuring far-right commentator Nick Fuentes. Well, at least they just said far-right. I don't know if Nick is far-right at all, but I don't know what all these goofy labels that they put on people. It just clouds our judgment completely. But neither here nor there. This is an example. However, maybe she should speak out about this. Call out the people. Call out. They're trying to cancel you. They're trying to disassociate themselves with you because of what? Because you had somebody come on and have a conversation. And maybe this is a blessing in disguise. Maybe you don't want that type of sponsor. Maybe you don't want, not sponsor. Maybe you don't want that type of agency representing you. The type of agency that handcuffs you. So I'll clap for you, because now you're free from clearly having some type of influence on you to where they think that they can control what you do. And it's different if it was a sponsor of a show disagreeing with Nick Fuentes. Like, this is even worse. Like, your talent agency, just because you brought on Nick Fuentes. But to each their own. This is what I mean when I say you are going to cause people to develop a disdain. You're going to cause people to develop a disdain and to see it as outside of just Israel. You're going to make people look at Jewish Americans like this. It's just natural. It's how it's the world that we live in. When somebody sees me with my locks and sees me, they may have certain prejudices against me. Cool. Okay. It is what it is. I have to, I accept that. I can't change the way you should not look at me like this. Like, nah, bro, look at me however you look at me. It's cool. It is what it is. All right. Nick made it very clear that America is Nick's tribe. And I think a lot of people are feeling that way. And I think that's what's going to ultimately unite a lot of people that have previously been considered on the right, left, all these goofy labels that we put on. But I think it's going to just unite a lot of people, a lot of Americans, based on being America, based on trying to create a country that is giving the American dream to Americans. And I want to touch on that for a second. This American dream concept, think about it. I was thinking about it yesterday. I'm like, has the American dream always been for non-Americans? Think about it. The American dream, what exactly is that? What do we think of when we think about the American dream? Usually it's somebody coming from outside the country. They came from outside the country with nothing. And now they built themselves up into... That's the American dream. Okay, perhaps we need to slow down on that American dream, recreate it, do some manifesting, so therefore we can change the projector, or change the trajectory of where we're going, and change what actually comes to fruition when it comes to the American dream, what that means. Perhaps the American dream, it's time for us to focus that internally rather than everybody from outside of America coming in, taking advantage of the resources while the opportunities are limited amongst Americans. Perhaps people should think about that. Now, it has to be a balance. Of course, Americans still have to compete. However, it seems to be a little bit out of hand at this point. It seems to be a little bit out of hand, and perhaps we can make some adjustments. That's what I would say. And think about it like this. When we talk about Americans, we use the term we, right? Americans. But when I remember watching this video with Jonathan Greenblatt, where he was discussing how a lot of Jewish people are not marrying other Jewish people, and that's becoming a problem. And he said, he was referring to something about Israel, and he said we. And I don't think he was referring to Jewish people. I think he was referring to Jewish people, but he's talking more specifically about Israel, I believe. And he was saying we, and I was like, hold up. He had to check himself to realize, like, hold on. I'm the head of the ADL. That's an American organization. I'm an American. Like, my we should be tied to America, not tied to Israel. Now, to each their own. You tie it to whatever you want. However, you're going to be judged accordingly. You can't have it both ways. You can't act like you're America first, but your priority we represents another country. That's not going to work. It cannot work. We're no longer accepting that. We're no longer accepting that. Doesn't matter whether you bully us. Doesn't matter whether you take opportunities away from us. Doesn't matter whether we may compromise our jobs. It doesn't matter. We're not standing on that anymore. We're not standing on it. All right. I think, Nick, I'm not sure if this was in this part or the second part, because we're breaking this video into two. But Nick did bring up that the fact that he's begging Trump to pass the baton to a true America First ambassador. And perhaps that's what Trump is showing us that he will ultimately do, because we've talked about it on the last few shows. Trump was at risk and is still at risk. Let me be very clear. Trump is at risk of, hold on. I hate when I chapstick it with it. But Trump was at risk of going down as, instead of the person that took us to an America First, like, we got tired of the establishment, the neocons, prioritizing other countries, Israel mainly, above American interests. Trump was supposed to be the person that takes us out of that. But what he's becoming is the person that is the final straw. And perhaps the final straw uniting a lot of people who were Democrats and Republicans to come together under this America First nationalistic mindset, if you may say, right? So perhaps Trump not disavowing Nick, not disavowing Tucker, I think that that's going to piss off a lot of people that were jumping out the window trying to criticize Tucker and use Donald Trump as that Trojan horse to get their message to people that follow Trump and to align themselves with Trump and to act as if they just align themselves with Trump, then they can ultimately put whatever message out there, and the fanatics, the fans of Trump, they will align. Not happening. Not happening. And shout out to Trump for not allowing it to happen. We haven't given Trump much credit at all this entire presidency, this second go around, but definitely him standing on business in this regard is something that we can at least semi-clap for. I mean, it should be expected. The fact that we got to even give him credit for this is kind of telling, just based on what he's been doing so far and the lack of him prioritizing America first. So y'all do what y'all may with it. All right, so we're going to wrap this part up. We're going to wrap this up. We got the second part coming to y'all shortly after this one. As always, appreciate y'all continuing to show love. All right, so make sure that you like, subscribe, turn your notifications on. Let's control the algorithm. Don't let the algorithm control us. Let's be intentional. And as always, y'all know I got these biases, and sometimes I'm not as objective as I believe that I'm being. So y'all let me know what I may be missing or how you can add some context or add anything to the conversation. It's always appreciated. All right. On that note, I'll see y'all soon. It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a nigga on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there. Let's figure out a split that's honorable and fair. Tell me where you trying to take it. Bro, I'll meet you there. 1600 Penn, Wash, D.C. Swear I saw the vision riding through the DMV. I envision prayers, but I could do VP. Hillbilly, Elegy, fuck, I look like JD. Shout out my cheat code, Dave and Karen raised me. And my big bro, a nuclear family. And they don't like that. Strong fathers in the crib, BLM fought that. LBJ society created all that. Victimhood mentality, I can't embrace that. And everything they taught in school, assume it's all cap. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Ain't no introduction, just some fun facts. In case you were wondering, I am that. I know you heard me hit it 3 times for Dr. Umar. Shout out to Umar, man. We ain't kicking nobody when they down. And shout out to everybody that continues to show love, support, appreciating the message that I'm giving y'all along with the bro Nick's message. We gonna keep pushing, man. And shout out to the haters too, cause y'all in the comments heavy too. y'all the ones that gave me the inspiration to create this song. They kept saying like, who's the random black guy in the corner? I am.